My name's Dan Caldwell. I started a company called TapOuT. We're a clothing brand based kind of in the mixed martial arts space, and we started that in 1997, about 15 years ago. I always knew that I was a really shy kid, and I didn't have a lot of friends for the most part. I always had like one best friend, and my parents didn't have a lot of money. I grew up in San Bernardino, California, and we lived in a really poor neighborhood, and I always felt like I wanted to fit in and I wanted to be a part of that group, and I never could. I didn't have the right clothes, or I didn't know the right people, or they just didn't. My parents. I remember people making fun of me because of the cars that my parents drove, and I just always wanted something more for my life. I knew there was something out there that there was something better for me and my family, and I wanted to help my parents. I always remember telling them, I was telling my grandmother, one day I'm gonna buy you a new Cadillac, and my parents, because of the house that they had lived in, my mom had been mugged out in front of our house, and we'd been in shootouts in front of our house. It just constantly, it was kind of, but I never felt in danger. It was just kind of the norm. And I knew there had to be something better than this, something out there that I was meant to do. And I was always looking for that. I always had my eyes open. I was always looking for those opportunities. And sometimes I would find them, and I would try to travel down that road. I became a DJ when I was 13 years old for my high school or junior high, and I was DJing my junior high dances, and I just always wanted to start some business that would be my way out, the thing that I would do that would get me out of this neighborhood and get me into a different life. And TapOuT eventually became that thing that helped my family and helped my kids, and hopefully change other people's lives. Yeah, I love speaking to kids because I was that kid who was in high school we didn't have speakers come through our neighborhood. We didn't have speakers come to our school, or people who, we didn't have any mentors or anybody to look up to. I mean, the people I looked up to, I remember going into like a Subway, and I could tell, just being observant, I could tell that the guy who was working behind the counter was the owner, because he was instructing people to do certain things. And I asked him, I said, do you own this Subway? And he told me, yes, he owns this one and a few other ones. And I remember going up there on my own one day to go, because it was about 30 minutes away, and I went up there on my own and asked him if I could just pick his brain for like 30 minutes, if he just had 30 minutes of his time. And I was probably 17, 16 years old, and I just asked him how did you start your Subway? How did you do this? And he told me, you're never going to get rich owning one Subway. You're going to have to, you need to understand how to run multiple businesses, because one Subway, you may only make $30,000 a month, but he owns five, or $30,000 a year, but he owns five. So the opportunity to build that income by owning multiple businesses, it kind of resonated with me. And it's probably why, always thinking like that, why I own like 6 or 7 businesses now, because I've always felt like I needed to build my businesses, that I needed to find other businesses that, to multiply that, I needed to start more businesses. And so I was just always looking for mentors, and now, because seeing that how when I go in and speak to these kids and how it resonates with them, and because of social media they can reach out to me, and I love that interaction between those kids, and seeing how they can be inspired by my story. And that's pretty much all I do. I just go in and tell my story for the most part, and tell them how I started and where I came from, and how I was able to, I was just like them, and I'm no smarter than them. I have a reading problem. I always had a tutor growing up in elementary school to help me with my reading, and those reading challenges caused me to fall back in all my studies. And what I wanted to, that I wanted to help them understand is that all the hard work that I had to put in paid off. That reading, what I would do is because I made myself like read a book a month. I put myself on the library at that time. They had libraries back then. I don't know if they still have libraries, but back then there was like a book a month club, and you could join this club where you would have to read a book a month. And I would always pick like biographies or autobiographies by people that I looked up to, and it would cause me to and how I was looking at them. They were my mentors inside of a book. And now I want to be that live mentor for those kids. Be there where they can ask me questions, and they can see me and see that I'm real and I'm not just some guy in a book, because there's always that disconnect. When you don't have that relationship with that person, or you haven't seen that person for real, they always become, oh, that's that person in the book, or that's that person on television that can do that. I want to be that person that's real for them, that person that's right in front of them that says, hey, I did it, and this is something that you can do too. There's no secret. It's a lot of hard work and having mentors and having people that you look up to and finding those secrets that make what you're trying to do easier.